Hello and welcome. This is session 2 of Resurge Your Business, and I would like to introduce to you Robin Koenig, who is our special guest today. Robin, take it away.
Thank you so much, Kathy. And it's so fun to see some familiar faces from last week's presentation. So this is definitely a continuing series, which you'll benefit from having each week under your belt, but also you do not have to have attended last week's presentation to benefit from this week. So let me go ahead and share my screen because it's definitely better than my current video in my shared office. Let's see, here we go. Okay. Everybody able to see my slides now? Awesome. Perfect. Okay, great. So thank you so much for coming today. Today we are focusing on strategic direction. And so the intention of today is to really talk about where you're going, or if you've shifted direction, how you want to make those pivots. And so, the reason I really love this part of the small business transformation journey, I'll call it, is because it's something you can do at any step of the way. Right. So you could be a brand new business and want to set your direction. You could be, in business for a few years and realize that you want to change course, have something like a global pandemic happen, and all of a sudden you're realizing that you actually need to make some changes in your course. Or you could be 20 years into your business and decide that there's something different, that you finally have decided that you want to make a change. And so strategic direction is something you can always come back to, but it's also something that is so important and foundational to your business for the long term. And so I like to, let me make sure I've got, there we go. I really like this quote here. You cannot be everything to everyone. If you decide to go north, you cannot go south at the same time. And so, how true is that? And when you think about that, trying to go in multiple directions, sometimes we think that that's what we need to do because there's so much going on. But being able to say, this is the direction I'm going, and not only for yourself, but for your team, is really, really key. Not only for your own personal sanity, or even when we talked last week about energy, right? And staying in that anabolic state, that positive mindset, feeling like you have the reins, having your strategic direction is really key to part of that. And so I like to use that, as a defining point here. I'm trying to move my little squares out of the way of our speakers, and it's not letting me do that. All right, never mind. So by definition, this is the way I like to define strategic direction. A map is used to define a path from point A to point B, but it's only possible if you actually know where those points are, right? So where you are now being point A, and where you are or where you want to go being point B, you have to know where those are on the map, right? So creating that clear picture of where you're going and the roadmap to get there is really critical to the success in the journey, especially with a small business. However, if you don't use it like a compass and keep checking to see if you're on track and then adjusting, you're going to get lost. Your team's going to get lost. And in fact, it might be extremely confusing as to where you are for your clients and your customers. And so the strategic direction is just that. It's creating the roadmap, and it's using it like a compass. It's sticking to it. It's a commitment to yourself and your business to do what you say you want to do in support of your customers, your clients, your patients, however you define that. So like I mentioned earlier, this is a really important piece of the puzzle in any type of business, any level of maturity of business. And so here's an interesting statistic. There's 30 million small businesses in the United States. 6 million of them employ people, and 24 million are solopreneurs. And the reason I share this is because one of the things that comes up a lot when a business is starting to set their direction is fear. fear that their direction may not be different from other people, that they want to go in a direction that other people aren't going. And with this, obviously 30 million small businesses in the United States, that makes sense, right? That you want to make sure that you stand out. But what's really, really important is not that you go in a different direction, but that your direction is well defined. And so that's what I want to talk about today is don't worry that you're one of 30 million small businesses in the United States. Don't worry that you either have employees or you don't. This is still your journey. This is still your business and your opportunity to set the direction and use that as the compass and your guide. And believe me, once you do that, you will not get lost. You will not go in the wrong direction because it's your direction. So I want to talk a little bit about kind of quick, high level, 30,000 foot level view of this, what I keep bringing up as this, small business transformation process and business maturity levels. And so this is a picture of what I utilize, and I think I mentioned it last week, in a business assessment. So when a small business comes to me and says, I'm not really sure kind of what's going on with my business, but I want to make a change and I'm curious to see, what you think. Okay, awesome. This is the one thing that I actually start with is this wheel. And what it does is it breaks a business down into 8 different segments. And in fact, it's the structure that I'm using for these workshops. And so you might notice if you've looked ahead in some of the other weeks that each week we're actually going to go through each of these segments around the wheel. We started with the first one, which was energy, or you could call that, corporate culture. But that's really about the foundation of, the mindset. The second piece being strategic direction. And then what I do is we work around the wheel and we look at other areas, including finances, your brand identity, teamwork or your people, the delivery process, your sales process, and then last but not least, marketing. It's extremely intentional in how we do this and what order we go in. And you'll notice that marketing is last. And there's a reason for that. We always do marketing last, even though it's probably the very first thing that a lot of small business owners want to do when they realize that maybe something isn't quite right or they want to make a change. And so I share this with you because I want you to have that kind of bigger view of the different areas of the business that we look at. But strategic direction is the second most important one. Now, these different levels help me understand, and there's a process to this, that business assessment that I mentioned, that after answering some questions in the online assessment, it's really simple, totally free, I get that information. It helps me see where a business might be in their maturity. So a level 1 maturity is a startup, right? They're just probably getting things going or at a startup level of that part of their business. Level 2 is stability. Level 3 is sustainability. Level 4 is scalability. And then level 5 is sellability, or I like to say is you can do whatever you want with your business. At that point, you're at a level of maturity to be able to say, what do I want to do now? And what's really interesting is most businesses are not at the same level across all of these 8 different areas. They might be a level 1 in strategic direction, but maybe they're at a level 3 when it comes to their brand, or a level 5 when it comes to their sales, or a level 2 when it comes to marketing. And what I like to do is I want to help even that wheel out. I want to help a business get to a consistent level of maturity across all 8 of these areas before we start to grow or expand and develop the maturity in any of those areas. I want to see consistency across the board because it's kind of like, think about it like a layer cake. If you have maybe, you've gotten to a level 2 in your strategic direction, and maybe you've done a couple of the things, the benchmark action items that will get you to a 5, but you haven't done 4 or 3. Well, those 2 layers, if there's missing something in the middle, there's a gap, they're going to collapse. And so I really want to make sure business has the ability to be sustainable, scalable, all the way across all of those areas. And that's the kind of work that I do. And so starting with strategic direction helps us set the course for that really important foundation of their business. So to kind of expand on that a little bit more, strategic direction is getting that clarity of where your business is going and how you're going to get there. And so I'm curious, when I go through these different levels, this is how I kind of try and interpret it, right? And this isn't, I try and kind of share this with the caveat that whatever level you're at, there's no judgment related, there's no bad level to be at. It's just understanding where you are. And so a level 1 for strategic direction would be a business that maybe is a little bit aimless, right? I like to say they're building the plane in the air, right? They're going, they're off to the races, but they might not have things very well documented or even have thought too much about where they want to go. They're just going and they're flying. A level 2 would be, I know where I'm going, but the plan isn't really well defined or documented. Maybe you've sat down and talked about it. Maybe you actually had a conversation, but you didn't put it into writing. Okay. A level 3 would be, well, you've got some goals defined, maybe some annual goals, some quarterly goals, but you're not really tracking the progress. That would probably say, well, you're beyond the startup and you're into a stable place, but maybe not sustainable for the long term. A level 4 would be having some weekly action plans in place with some daily check-ins and doing some reporting on that. And then a level 5 is continually adjusting the goals and the plans based on your results, being able to not only know where you're going, look at what you've accomplished, and then just accordingly. So just out of curiosity, you can answer this if you want, or you don't have to, but I'm curious if anybody has some thoughts as to where their business is based on these 5 levels, just under strategic direction. Do any of these resonate at all? Where do you think you might be? Yeah. Any thoughts for you, Kathy? I can't hear you.
I would say probably 4.
Yeah, so you've got some action plans, you're doing some check-ins, you've got some reporting processes going. So that would probably mean you're in a good sustainable to scalable business maturity when it comes to strategic direction. Anybody else?
Well, it depends on how you define it, because COVID has thrown a wrench into the process.
Yeah, that's a really valid point. So Carolyn, I'm curious, where do you feel like maybe you were pre-COVID and where do you feel like you are now?
Well, I was definitely at level 5 pre-COVID, but probably somewhere between, I don't know. I don't even know where I am now.
And that's okay.
Huh?
Yeah, that's okay. Being able to say, you know what, it's changed. And maybe that's kind of that level 2 space is, you know where you're going, but you haven't really defined it. Like you're still there, you're still doing the work, but something changed and it's time to go back and redefine or reset the compass. Right? Does that sound about right?
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Because COVID, for my kind of business and for what I did, pretty much kiboshed the whole thing. I mean, it's really hard to do events. It's really hard to do, to do that kind of planning for nonprofits or planning for other businesses when you really can't. You can do them, but everything's virtual.
Yeah. So not only has your point B changed as to where you want to go, but your point A's changed too on the map.
Yeah, it basically rewrote the whole business scale.
Right. Right. So the opportunity here, right? And when we look at it through a anabolic lens, we'll use some terminology from last week, is to say, okay, yes, this has happened. Acknowledge, right? It's happened, and this is where we are. Now we put our stake in the ground and say, how do you want to move that forward? Use that as the opportunity to look through a different lens. It's a whole new lens, right? And it can be frustrating, and it can evoke some anxiety and some, frustration, maybe a little level 2 of getting a little angry about it. But then when we get to that next level of let's look at this from an opportunity and say, this is what I want to do, not what I have to do. We set the new course. And so that's the opportunity, it sounds like, of you putting that, now looking at a strategic direction that will suit the new path forward for your business in a new way. Go back and you start building it again. You start building the new direction. Maybe some of the other pieces haven't changed as much as, you think, but your strategic direction, because it's such a key, pivot point, setting that could maybe give you some new grounding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This same thing happened in between 2006 and 2008. The same thing happened. And, basically I started all over after 25 years in business.
Yeah. Yeah. And how do you feel like okay, actually I have one other question for you. What do you think you did? What skill did you draw on to get through it that time?
Well, I knew what I was doing as far as public relations in my business and how to promote a company very well. But the industry that I had worked in for 25 years basically went away. I mean, I was working for architects and interior designers and construction managers and companies that dealt to that trade. So anybody who manufactured anything, rug manufacturers, furniture manufacturers, faucet manufacturers, you name it. And then when that recession hit, it decimated those industries pretty much. And even the magazines I dealt with, I had dealt with 135 different shelter magazines, even worldwide, and we lost more than half of those magazines at that point. Some that had been around for 100 to 150 years crashed and burned, and so the whole industry was trying to figure out how to pick itself up and return. And even Warren Buffett said, he owns a construction company, and even he said it's never really returned from where it was at that point. And it's because companies were downsizing. They didn't care whether they facility planned their offices. They just wanted to get to a smaller space. They didn't care what it looked like. And they just wanted to start saving money. But 35% of the people in that industry lost their jobs. So they had no money left to do anything else to promote the firm. So what I did is I started working for all kinds of other industries. I took what I knew and built on that knowledge, and then started working as a generalist for other companies and getting to know the whiz words and the buzzwords and the workings of other companies. So that's how I pivoted then. And then and working with the chamber too, and doing events with the chamber and all of that, that also helped with the PR, and I was doing the before and after PR for a lot of the events as well. And then of course COVID hit.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say, Carolyn, is that you had to be resilient, but you took what you knew. You already knew something there that could take you to that next phase of your business, and you built on that. And so if you were able to do that then, I'm sure that that's the same skill set that you draw on now. And you go back to what is it that you currently know, and how do you build on that? And there could be, I really think that there's going to be some things out of the rest of this workshop that can help you do that. But I encourage you to step into that piece of confidence that you've done it before and you have the ability and the skill to do it again. And so a new path, right? With this same tool and that same skill that you used before. Yeah. Awesome. And also I want to throw this out there too. You know, this is about shifting that paradigm that because things have changed, that we don't have control. That's a really tough one. And that really what it actually comes down to is a scarcity mindset. So I'm diverting a little bit from here, but I just want to put this out there because I do think it's really important that it's fear, right? It's fear-based and scarcity mindset, that because all of these restrictions and all of these things have changed and stuff is shut down and businesses have, really felt the impact of the pandemic. And I'm not making light of that whatsoever. But the belief that it can't exist again, or that it can't exist even better, is a scarcity mindset. And if we're able to understand that and say, I know that there's something there, I know that there's opportunity. I have seen other businesses grow from this pandemic being the best opportunity they've ever had. And that's not the case for all of them. I know that to be true. And I feel it when I talk with small business owners who've had to shut down. But at this point, if you're in the place where you're like, I just need to change course, then removing that scarcity mindset that the new path doesn't exist or that it's restricted, that there's stuff in the road, you got to start there, get rid of that first. And then make the decision that you want to redefine the plan. You want to get clarity on where your business is going now and how you're going to get there. And this is a way to get that started. So thank you for sharing that with me. So let's look at how you can do this, right? Because I'm extremely tactical and intentional. I'll say I'm strategic and tactical, but intentionality is really the name of the game here. And so the very first thing that I like to start with is what we call your MVP. It's your mission, it's your vision, and it's your passion, right? The very common thing that comes up is in strategic direction is that it's a business plan. And that's not necessarily the case. And I'm not saying that it's not a good idea. Especially if you have, you need to apply for loans or, you're working with some partners. Having a business plan is not, it's not a bad thing, but it's also not a necessity. And so I like to remove the fear of, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do a business plan and what does that look like? And that just seems so official and I just want to start my business. You can do that. And so starting with this MVP helps you at least get things aligned and on paper and documented, and you're making a commitment and you're being held accountable in a process. So the first one is your mission. And so I love doing mission statements. It's interesting. I actually worked for a nonprofit for about 7 years. I was the COO of a nonprofit organization. And we were constantly referring to our mission. It was the most important piece of information that everybody wanted to understand. What's our mission? Why should they, engage with us? And there's two ways that you can look at a mission. You can look at a personal mission, and you can also look at a business specific mission. And the complexity there is that when you're a small business owner, we wrap so much of ourselves into our business, right? And so understanding that what you want doesn't necessarily have to be built into the mission of the business. You can have two. You can have a personal mission statement and you can have a business mission statement. The most important piece is that you feel like it communicates what it is that you're trying to do on behalf of your clients, patients, customers. And so the first piece of it is just kind of thinking. Whether you're a journaler or you like to just kind of think through different ideas, the food for thought that I like to use in starting to develop a mission that's going to be relevant to your business is to think about what your original vision was. Idea. I use the word vision in here, but actually I'd probably rather use the word idea. What was the original idea that you had? Why did you go into business in the beginning? What were you excited about? And then getting clarity as to where your business is now in relation to that. Like those are just the things I want you to think about when you're starting to develop a mission for your business, right? That just kind of gets the juices flowing. I like to say it puts you into that mindset of really saying, this is purposeful. I know that there's a purpose here. Why did I want to do this in the first place? What was I excited about? But the ultimate questions and how you actually develop the mission is, what's the core problem that your business is here to solve? Small businesses solve problems. You are the solution to the person that needs you. So understanding what that core problem is first, then who has that problem? Who are the people that you're serving? Who has that problem that you're trying to solve? And why is it important that it gets solved? What's the pain associated with somebody having that problem? And I say problem not as a bad thing, but it's something that they're coming to you for. Those are the questions that you want to answer as you build your mission. And I want to give you an example here, because I also really like guidance and structure. And so we formulated this like template as to how you can put this into some language. Maybe you don't know how to say it. So here's a template that you can use to actually articulate that mission. Once you go through that, get your brain going around the food for thought, then start to answer those questions around the problem, the solution, who it's for, and how you're solving that problem and why it's important. So this is an example. So level 6 is it's a coaching and consulting company that I work for as another part of my business. So I have my Rare Find side of my coaching and consulting. And then I also work with Rare Find as a consultant because they specialize in working with small business owners. And so this is an example. Using the template that I've shared on here is putting your business name in there. So whoever you are, exists to help. Insert who you're helping, right? The question of who has this problem, to whatever that problem or solution is, right? You can define that there. By doing what? Like, what is it that you do to solve that problem? And the why is so that they can, experience something, so that they can be free of something, so that they can feel different, better. So the one that I've shared here kind of takes you through this template. So I'll read it for you. Level 6 exists to help small business owners get more focused and organized by helping them use emotional intelligence, energy leadership, fundamental business practices, and accountability so they can build a financial future for their family. That's the mission of level 6. So when you read that or you hear that as a mission, does that give clarity as to what the problem is that level 6 is solving and for whom and why? Yeah. I mean, I think it does. And it's certainly something that you can always go back and modify, right? If you feel like, oh, I just want to change a word or do whatever, there's nothing that says you can't do that. You can always go back and re-articulate your mission. But this is a way for you to get started and answer some of those questions, to be able to put the mission out there as the very first piece as to, why do you get up in the morning and do this? What is this for? Who are the people that you want to serve? So that's step 1 of your MVP. Now, step 2 is your vision. Now, these are 2 separate things, and sometimes they can be used together, right? So I always recommend that you do the mission first, because you're really defining the problem that you want to solve. And again, specific to your business. The vision side of it has a intention that it's supporting the mission, but it also goes beyond. Because again, as a small business owner, you're doing this for a reason that is also for yourself, right? So you're solving a problem for other people, but at the end of the day, you're doing this because you want to do this. You want to own your business and you want to do something that is bettering your life down the road. And so vision is going to take that and expand it. And this is going to open the door now to bigger thinking. Instead of just being stuck in that hamster wheel of I'm doing all day long with my business. Why? What's the vision that I have that's going to help me every single year get better, grow stronger, become more, whether financially free or all of those things that you want for your life. So setting the vision for the business starts with the core problem that you're solving, right? That goes back to your mission. Then defining how many people have this. If you believe that this problem is important to solve, quantify it. How many people are struggling with that? 30 million small businesses in the US. That's a lot, right? That's a solution that I'd want to put out there because there's a lot of people that have that problem. And how many of them do you want to solve the problem for? So you might say, okay, well, yeah, there's millions and millions of people that have this problem, but how many of them do I want to help? Give yourself some scale and put that down. And then the last question, I think, is the most important one, is what will your business need to look like? And I use 10 years as you can change this, but I like 10 years. What would my business need to look like over the next 10 years in order to solve that problem for that many people? Now you're giving yourself a runway. 10 years from now, I want to have this many employees, or maybe you don't want to ever have employees. That's okay. I want to have, this many locations. I want to be in this area. I want to live in the West Coast. I want to have locations anywhere. I want to be virtual. And then going beyond that, what do you want that business to do for you? 10 years from now, do you want to retire? 10 years from now, do you want to sell your business so that you can fund something else? Give yourself something bigger to strive for, that every single year you can go back and say, how am I now tracking towards that 10-year vision? That's step 2. Now I want to give you another piece of food for thought here, because a lot of times we like to build a mission and a vision around whatever it is that we believe our business is providing. And whether it's an actual product that you provide or a service, there's 2 ways to think about this. There's a commodity, which is the actual thing, right? We'll use a pie shop as an example. I don't know why that just came to mind, but it sounds really good. So a pie shop, right? What's the commodity that business is providing? Well, pies, right? An actual product. That's the commodity. A product, the product that you're delivering is a feeling. The product of whatever that pie shop is offering is maybe it's the feeling of, being able to have a treat to reward yourself, right? That feeling of excitement or nostalgia of a warm, piece of hot apple pie and ice cream on top that reminds you of when you were a kid, or it makes you feel like it's fall. There's something there that is the feeling that business is providing. If they only talked about providing pies and didn't associate it with a feeling, it's unlikely they would probably have as many customers as they want. So the reason I share this is because as you're building your mission and your vision, I want you to think about the feeling as the product of what you're providing, more than the thing, more than the commodity. The chamber doesn't just provide membership to a group that's in the geography that I live. The chamber provides a feeling of connection and a feeling of camaraderie and support and resources in the area that I live that makes me feel like I'm not alone in my business. Which one do you like better, Kathy? The second one. Yeah. And that's what will draw me in as a chamber member or potential member. It's the same with any other business. Going back to that whole idea that you're one of 30 million small businesses in the United States, this is one of your key differentiators. And so thinking about it early on and understanding that and believing in it is really important as you build your mission and your vision. Now, the last piece is your passion. You could say purpose. I like the word passion. That's just me. But I also really like this idea that without passion, the business is just a job, right? How true is that when you wake up in the morning? You got to wake up and have some passion to do what we do. And so when you start to look at passion, You've got your mission and your vision. The passion is the fuel that it's going to take, that you need for that to become a reality. It's the reason why people are drawn to it. It's why they want to connect with you, are inspired to join it, meaning join you in whatever it is you're doing in your business, and why they will spend their money to invest in it, right? They're not paying for a service, they're investing in what you do. That's what a small business owner does. And so when you think about this, I want you to start to answer some questions for yourself around your passion. Why are you passionate about being in your mission and creating your vision? What experiences have driven you to care so much about solving this problem? There's something there that has occurred to you that said, this is why I do what I do. This is why I wake up in the morning and I'm excited. And maybe not every single day, but most days you're waking up because you're excited and you're passionate. What's your story, right? This idea that a business is, something that's on paper, like I said, a business plan that has, 4 walls, or maybe not any 4 walls at this point, right? We've got to give it some life. And your story is important to that. Your story is why people are going to be drawn to it. And that's an important piece. What is your why? So if anybody has ever read Simon Sinek's Start With Why, has anybody heard of Simon Sinek? Yeah, so he is, he's been really pivotal in helping redefine kind of the approach to building a foundation for business. And Kathy, I can send you a link to his TED Talk, which is, 18 minutes or so, that was a catalyst to helping a lot of small business owners and people in general, whether in the nonprofit sector, the corporate sector, to redefine what he calls the golden circle. And, his bold statement is, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And if you start with that and you go out there from the middle of the why to the outer part of the circle, you'll get to the what, but you got to start with that why, and then the how, and then the what. And so defining that for yourself is important. Tell your story. People want to understand why you do what you do and the story behind that. Now, I know I'm kind of going through this quickly, but I want you to see what we just talked about. That MVP is taking you from a level 1 to a level 2 maturity when it comes to strategic direction. It's taking you from that startup into the stability that is really important for that small business owner. The next piece of this, that 313, is taking you from a stability into sustainability. Okay. And typically what I'll share with you is putting like a 3-month focus on that level 1 to level 2 is not unreasonable, right? So people ask me a lot of times, like, how do I get from, that level 1 to level 2 and level 3? Like, how long does it take? 3 months of focus will get you very far. You can get from a startup to, sustainability in 3 months. That's possible. Some people like to take, 12 months to get into a sustainability, but that's possible. And then to get beyond that, you're talking probably a year or more, and that's okay. But these are the steps that you can take. And the next piece of that to get you into stability towards sustainability is to do a 313 plan. So 313 plan, I like to, put this into context. A goal without a plan is just a wish. A plan without action is just a speech. Okay, so I really like to focus on intentionality here. Clarify your direction now that you have your 10-year vision in mind, and now you put it onto paper. So the first piece is a 3-year plan. This is, asking yourself the question, where do you want your business to be in 3 years? What kind of energy do you need for that? Energy meaning mindset, meaning outlook, opportunities. How many people or problems do you want to solve? Everything that you started to work on, right? Understanding that core problem. Now look at it from a 3-year approach. What are your goals for revenue? What kind of people might you need? The important piece about a plan isn't that you need to know how. There's plenty of resources out there to help you with that. But give yourself some goals, give yourself some markers, give yourself an idea of that plan and what it's going to take, and then go back and try and solve the problem or figure out the resources that you need for it. Don't not build the plan because you don't know how to get there. So start with a 3-year plan based on the 10-year vision of what you want. The next piece is to break it down into a 1-year goal, or I like to call it a 12-month home run. What would a 12-month home run look like a year from now towards that 10-year vision? If a year from now you can say, man, I'd really like to have this many projects done, or this many orders, or these many people, coming to my business. Give yourself some goals and build a 12-month home run. And then the last part of that is your 3-month project or your quarterly rocks, right? Because now you're going to have to put it into play and figure out, in order to get to that 12-month goal, or sorry, the 12-month home run, what do I need to do for the next 3 months? And break it down, right? A 12-month home run still seems a little scary sometimes, especially in this current climate, but that doesn't mean you don't give yourself something to reach for. Build your 12-month home run and then break it down into quarterly rocks, knowing that this is still your business. You get to still decide if you want to change things around, but still don't not put something on paper because you're afraid it might change. So 3-month projects, quarterly rocks, and then figuring out, once you've got the 3-month projects, right, from now until, gosh, it's almost November. So November, December, January, what do you need to do to get there by the end of January? So before I jump into what's next, I want to make sure, are there any questions or thoughts, insights around either the MVP or the 313 plan? And I can't see the chat in case, I don't know if there's anything in the chat. No, okay. So what's next? It comes down to these ideas, right? So even if you're thinking, gosh, that sounds like a lot of work, I'm not really sure how to do it, I offer these as the ideas of what you can do if you decide that it's time to put your strategic direction into place. Focus. Pick one thing that you want to do and focus on that. Even if it's, I'm going to start with the mission. Great. Focus on that. Accountability. Tell somebody that you want to make a change. Shoot me a message. That's what I'm here for, right? Tell me that you want to make a change and you want to build a mission, or you're focusing on your MVP, or man, you've got a 10-year vision that is just, you've been waiting to share. Be accountable for it. Measure. When you start to put some things into place and you tell yourself that I'm going to do something, have a way to measure your success. This is your opportunity to measure success, nobody else's. Consistency. Show up every single day, decide what you want to do, and do it every single day. That sounds like simple, right? But it's what you decide, and it's what you say you're going to do, and you're the only one that's going to show up for that. Every single day, be consistent. Resources, use your resources. If you don't know how, don't be afraid to ask. If you're not really sure, or you think maybe somebody else has had the same problem or same challenge, ask. If you just want a template, put it out there. See who has it. You don't have to recreate the wheel and everything, right? The resources exist for you, especially here in the chamber. And then commitment. This commitment is to yourself. Now, obviously, we've talked a lot about what you're doing to help solve a problem for somebody else as far as your business is concerned. But when it comes down to it, this commitment is to yourself, right? You're the business owner and you've decided this is what you want. And if it's not what you want, then obviously that's a whole nother conversation. But the commitment is here for yourself to show up and do that work. That's what's going to take you beyond this level 3 to the level 4 scalability, to the level 5 sellability and beyond. So, you know, like I mentioned, there might be resources that you need, right? So I put this out there so that you know these are the kinds of things that I can help with if you feel like that's helpful or important for you. So the business assessment goes back to the wheel that I mentioned, the 8 different segments. It's a few different questions. You answer some questions and I give you some insights, and then, you know, provide some suggestions. It's completely and totally free. It's something that I can do to help you if you just feel like, man, I want some understanding and I want another perspective, right? Give you some insights about where you might be and ways that you can close the gaps. And that could be valuable when it comes to, you know, being on these workshops and starting to understand the different segments of your business and where you might be. Support, I'm just here to help and provide those resources that if you're like, man, I really think that I need to have some help when it comes to the financial side, I know people. The chamber obviously is an amazing resource, but if you feel like you just don't want to, you know, swim through the listings of all the different potential resources and you want, you know, somebody to kind of give you some suggestions, that's what I do. And within those 8 different segments of your business, I know the resources that can help you navigate through the different levels of maturity in all of those areas, you know, whether it be a creative person, a financial person, you know, operations, IT, whatever it is. That's part of what I do in keeping those resources available for all the small businesses within those 8 different segments. And then obviously one-on-one coaching, you know, if this is something that you feel like you are ready to step into and you really want somebody to not only help guide you, but also hold you accountable and do that every week to get you from point A to point B, there you go. That's what I'm here for as well. So that's scratching the surface, but hopefully giving you some tools and some ideas of where to start or maybe where to restart when it comes to your business and the compass and putting your plan in place so that you can navigate through whatever waters it is currently and also in the future to make sure that your business has its direction and its sights set on where you want it to go. So are there any questions that I can help provide answers to? I think we're just about at time. 6 minutes left.
Any questions? It was wonderful again, Robin. Thank you.
You are welcome. And Carolyn, again, if you've got questions or you want to throw anything out there that you want another perspective, please don't hesitate to shoot me a message or reach out. You know, I'm happy to support you. I know that this is, again, another pivot for you and confident that you'll be able to reset your direction. So
it seems like the pivots are coming more often and more crazy.
it's not a straight line to success, right?
No.
Yeah.
Enough with the pivots already.
I know. There was a quote that I read and I'm trying to remember. It's something to the effect of that pivots are like the what's it called? The small steps to our dreams. There was a quote that I read and I can't think of it off the top of my head, but keep that in mind that they're definitely taking you somewhere. You know, part of it is going for the ride, but also now you've got the tools. You've got the tools to reset your direction. So I'm excited to hear how that comes together for you. And Vanessa, if you have any questions or ideas or insights and how I can help